You are listening to Black Girl Missing, a podcast that covers stories of Black girls who were reported missing when they were under the age of 18. When Black girls go missing, their cases are severely underreported in mainstream media. We want to shift the narrative. We invite you to listen, learn, and do whatever you can to help us bring as many girls home as possible. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Please remember to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite platform so that we can keep bringing you the stories of Black girls that need to be told. Due to the sensitive and sometimes graphic nature of these cases, we advise you to use caution when listening.
We open each show reviewing cases of girls who are currently missing that we call the Aisha Alert. We encourage you to pay close attention, check our social media, and help us help the families who are still seeking answers and long for their loved one's safe return. We'd like to note that we create these lists of currently missing Black girls in real time, so by the time the podcast episodes are released, there may have been changes. We will have information on each case posted on our social media channels so that you can stay updated. Samaya Davis is a 14-year-old girl from Falls Township, Pennsylvania. Samaya was last seen Thursday evening, September 10th, leaving her home in the Village of Pembroke Apartments. She was next spotted in the Morrisville area around 10 a.m. Friday, September 11th. She is 120 pounds and 5'10". She was last seen wearing black pants and a white t-shirt. Anyone with information has been asked to call 215-945-3100. Keena Lawrence is a 13-year-old girl from Chicago, Illinois. Keena was last seen Tuesday, September 8th in the 7200 block of South Albany Avenue. She is known to hang out around Marquette Park and the 7100 block of South Sacramento Avenue, police said. She is described as 5'3", 125 pounds, with brown eyes and braided black hair. She was wearing a red shirt, black shorts, and gray sandals when she went missing. Anyone with information is asked to call police at 312-747-8274. Asia Cowell is a 17-year-old girl from Norfolk, Virginia. Asia was last seen in the 7400 block of West Kenmore Drive on September 7th. She weighs about 158 pounds and is 5'8". Police ask that anyone who sees her calls 911.
Welcome back to Black Girl Missing. Thank you for joining us. I am Nikki.
And I'm Asa.
And Feminista Jones is not with us today. She will be back next time. She had to take a night off. Asa, how are we doing?
I'm doing. Had a nice beach day yesterday. Nice. I'm now extra tan, so I'm happy about that.
I love it. The pandemic is getting to me. Usually you get used to something. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting used to this.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I don't like it. I don't love it. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm trying to woosah my way through this. We're going to be fine.
Indeed. I'm trying to get all of my outdoorness out in right now because it's going to be real tough fall, winter for me. So,
girl,
yeah.
I'm trying to prepare myself for what a socially distanced entire year is about to look like. So, but we're going to get through this together.
Me and my psychiatrist, yes.
Girl, listen. That's all we can do is do our best.
Facts.
Today, you are bringing us Tionda and Diamond Bradley.
Yes.
All right, take it away.
All right, so Tionda was 10 years old and Diamond was 3 years old when they were last seen at their Chicago apartment on the 3500 block of South Lake Park Avenue, Friday, July 6, 2001. The last reported sighting of the girls was by by an adult other than Tracy Bradley, their mother, and George Washington, their mother's boyfriend, was by their grandmother, who says she saw them the day before during the afternoon. On the morning of July 6th at approximately 6:30 a.m., their mother, Tracy, left for work to go at Robert Taylor Park, where she prepared lunches for children in a summer camp program. Tionda and Diamond were both in the apartment at the time Tracy left for work. Reports I found say that Tracy returned home between 11 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. She said that the girls were not home, but Tionda had left her a note saying that she and Diamond were walking to the store and nearby Doolittle Elementary School, about 2/10 of a mile away, and a 4-minute walk from where Tionda was enrolled in summer classes. However, school officials say that Tionda was absent that day. When asking neighbors, authorities state that neighborhood kids recalled seeing Tionda and Diamond both at the school and playing outside their home around noon that day, perhaps having the days confused or misremembering who they exactly saw, because that doesn't line up with the events that other adults were telling.
Right. We've talked about that before. Kids aren't
Mhm.
always the best historians.
Right, and I mean, adults aren't good witnesses either. Like, that's a
True.
thing.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Before calling the police, Tracy and neighbors searched for Tionda and Diamond for about 5 hours. From what I found, Tracy said she didn't call police immediately because she was scared that the Department of Child and Family Services would take them from her since she left the two at home alone. Very, very
Mm-hmm.
valid concern.
Very.
So the first call to report them missing was at about 6:30 p.m. the same day. Once police were contacted, investigators launched one of the largest searches in Chicago history, with the FBI also getting involved. In the beginning, a rotating crew of 100 detectives worked around the clock searching sewers, lagoons, abandoned buildings, and factories, digging through garbage and interviewing more than 100 sex offenders in the area. More than 30 relatives were interviewed, then re interviewed, and interviewed again. But once started, the search became muddied because Tracy, the girl's mother, gave varying stories of what happened and then became uncooperative.
No.
Yeah. That was a big point of contention in this case, especially when you start hearing like neighbors talking about it and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, Tionda's note was the biggest red flag for the family. They say she never left notes, preferring to use the phone if she had to leave a message. And the grammar was nothing like Tionda's. Bradley Smith says she recovered a letter from Tionda written 5 months before she disappeared, and it's completely different in style, tone, and grammar. Uh, Sheila Bradley Smith is the girl's great aunt.
Mm.
So she says no way she improved that much in 5 months, referring to Tionda's writing style.
But okay, wait a minute. 5 months
Mm-hmm.
is a long time.
Yes, yes. But
I'm gonna let it ride. I
yeah,
just
yeah. I mean, I understand like why she would be like this is suspicious, especially considering she typically calls and doesn't write notes.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm gonna let it ride. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
point out that kids absolutely can improve a lot in 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fair statement.
Yeah. So, although authorities have verified that it is Tionda's handwriting, their great aunt, Bradley Smith, thinks her niece was coached. She says, someone coerced her to write that note. Someone very familiar with Tracy and the children. She describes Tionda as street smart and wary of strangers, a fast runner who loved to dance and was protective of her younger sister Diamond, the baby of the family, who was affectionately known as Honey Bun.
Mm.
The girls were very close. They wouldn't have left each other, ever, says Bradley Smith. As news of the missing girls spread, the police were flooded with tips and even had psychics calling in about visions of where the girls' bodies were. Um,
Jeez.
very morbid. One tip even saying that the girls were being sold as sex slaves in a small town in Illinois. Suspicions soon fell onto the biological fathers of the two girls. Diamond's father, George Washington, and Tiana's father, at least two men have at different times been identified as Tionda's father, including an immigrant from Morocco, which is how the search for the girls became international for a little while, with investigators traveling to Morocco, Belize, and Mexico to follow leads. That part of the story was um, shot. Well, between the scale of the search
Hmm.
and the amount of time and effort they put in, this was reading this like was shocking to me. Like you don't
Hmm.
really hear that much about police investigating this deeply into missing black girls.
Absolutely not, especially not international. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious about the details of these men and
Mm-hmm.
why them? Like, I
Yeah.
guess what I'm wondering is there something that they've done in the past to make them think that they would take the girls? Had they
Mm-hmm.
been abusive? Had they been neglectful? Were they absent?
Uh, that's George wasn't. The other one, the other father,
Hmm.
who we don't really know for sure who it is, he's
Oh.
kind of up in the air.
Mm,
Yeah. Um,
interesting.
yeah. Tracy declined to identify Tionda's father.
Mm.
The other man questioned was a security guard named Daniel Torres. In an interview, Torres said he was the little girl's real father, although he had not seen her or her mother in 7 years. He said that after he and Bradley broke up, they lost touch, but he has Tionda's name tattooed on his arm.
Okay, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute,
Yeah,
wait a minute.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
If we have a child together and I think I'm your real father,
Mm-hmm. Enough to get
ain't
you
no lose
tattooed.
right, ain't no losing touch.
Nah, nah.
You my child, period. So if I'm your child, so that also makes me wonder about, and we talk about this documentation, like who is her
Mm-hmm.
documented father? Because if you are calling yourself her quote real father and y'all live in the same place, there is no
Losing touch.
there is
Right.
no losing touch. Ain't no lost touch. And also you could have gone to court and said, hey, my daughter is Tionda. I haven't seen her in X amount of years and I would like to see
Mm,
her.
yeah.
Something here ain't right.
Something's not right. But as all the digging I could find, like it was very, very hard to figure out this aspect of it. Between Tiana's mother not cooperating in that sense of
Mm-hmm.
being forthright with who the father was or who
Mm-hmm.
she believed the father was, and then kind of like the rumor mill starting it.
Right.
It was very difficult.
Mm.
Let's see. At the time the girls went missing, Tracy and George, that was Diamond's father, were in a court battle over child support for Diamond, but they still seem to be on good terms because reports say that he came over to visit Tracy and then drive her to work. Uh, he came over at 4:30 a.m. and then to hang out and drive her to work the day the girls went missing.
Mm. Okay.
After dropping her off at work, he then went to visit his girlfriend on 97th Street, then his mother, and then returned to pick Tracy back up from work. Tracy
Okay.
told
They almost seem like they have
a
like a friend.
co-parent. Yeah, a
Yeah.
good co-parenting relationship despite being in court for child support, which isn't
Okay.
unheard of.
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Um, Tracy told investigators that George picked her up from work and they came back to the home because they planned to take the girls camping. However, according to the girls' great aunt Sheila, she feels this isn't true. She says, I love Tracy with all of my heart, but I have to say what I believe, and she knows that. And what does she believe? She only knows that certain things trouble her with Tracy's story. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, this camping trip Tracy and George said they were taking with the two girls, she says, never in my life have I heard anything about camping from them. Very unusual.
It's the first time for everything, but
But,
I
uh,
understand I
yeah,
understand.
yes. And like, first time going camping, people, you don't keep that on the low. And this is, their family was very close.
Right.
So I definitely understand why she's like, this don't set right in my spirit.
Right. Right.
Um, a piece of information that came up frequently in some true crime forums was that George Washington was found with a receipt for gloves, bleach, and garbage bags that he purchased at Home Depot. However, I haven't been able to find any official reporting on that part.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just adding that in from, the true crime forums because they be piecing stuff together. They be using things they have heard from people in the neighborhood and people that were around at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
they're on their own little journalism kick. um, the morning that the girls went missing, Tionda had called her mother at work and left a message on her phone. According to Sheila, the message said, Mama, this is Tionda. Mom, pick up the phone. George is at the door. Can I open the door? He said that we're going to Jules, which is a local grocery store, to pick up the cake there. We're coming to pick you up from work. The voicemail mysteriously disappeared after being presented to the police. Investigators never figured out if the George in question was Diamond's father, George Washington, or a neighbor and friend of Tracy named George. It's unclear which George Tionda was talking about.
Oh no.
So that's another reason why that note was very suspicious.
Also, because George Washington
Mm-hmm.
had already had a plan to pick her up from work.
Mm-hmm.
So why would, like, where's this other George coming from?
He's a neighbor. He is a friend of Tracy, but they never were able to figure out which George uh Diamond was referring to.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Police interviewed Tracy 4 times for a total of 22 hours. Authorities say that Tracy was cooperative as she voluntarily took a polygraph test soon after the girls went missing, but soon stopped cooperating, having missing several scheduled appointments to speak with detectives. She shoved a police officer who requested that she accompany him to the precinct to discuss new leads in March 2002. Tracy was placed in handcuffs and taken to the station where she briefly spoke with investigators. Her attorney arrived shortly thereafter and stopped the interview. Now,
Mm-mm.
I can understand Tracy starting to get agitated after a while
Yeah.
because she's being treated as a suspect, and if you aren't you didn't do anything, that can really, your fuse becomes a little short. So I can
And it's
understand.
traumatic. These are my children. And
Yeah.
now I'm having to relive the trauma of losing them over and over again as you ask me accusatory questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can see how she'd be frustrated.
Yeah. In a Nancy Grace interview that aired on CNN in 2007, it was brought to light that Tracy's recounting of events had changed when questioned. She first said that she slept until 11 a.m. that morning, woke up, and the girls were gone. Then, under police questioning, she stated she got up at 6 a.m. that morning and went to work, which was then verified. There's still a question of whether or not the girls were actually home on the morning of Friday, July 6th, because of the suspicion around Tracy's recounting of the events. Even Sheila Bradley has said she thinks that they went missing on July 5th, since no one saw the girls after around 3:30 or 4 Thursday afternoon. In this
Okay,
in
wait a minute. I'm
mhm,
sorry. Let me cut you off. You know what I just thought about as you were mentioning how her story is changing? Because it's not even changing a little bit, like it's changing a
it's a
whole lot.
whole lot. That's a big time leap.
It made me think about when people are experiencing a mental health crisis, or if they
Mhm.
have severe anxiety, depression, things like that, your memory really will play with you.
It will, but also, even if it wasn't a memory thing, that the threat of CPS coming into your
Right,
home is
right,
very real. So I can understand. And then also, she knows that she's a suspect. Like,
right. So, and
she might be just saying things. She might have came in trying to um not make the situation look as bad as it was.
right. And if you're experiencing any level of psychosis,
Mhm,
or a lot of stress, or a lot of grief, or a combination of things,
mhm.
you might say stuff that's just simply not true.
Right. Like,
You might misreport things.
mhm,
You might not be able to think straight, and they don't take that into account in like for legal matters or criminal matters,
right.
things like that. They don't think about how is this affecting her mental health. I'm not
Mhm,
saying that she's innocent or not. Clearly we don't know.
right.
But my thought is, it's really easy to go through something like this and completely recount the story incorrectly, or
Mhm.
to just straight up lie.
Yeah, there's just so many, there's a lot of factors in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we hear stories like this, our first instinct is to be like, our first instinct when we see things look a little shaky is, oh,
Mm-hmm.
they did it. That's them. They
Right.
guilty. It's, but you never know why the things they've said are being said.
Right. Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah. In the Nancy Grace interview, the girl's grandmother, Mary Bradley, noted that a house key on Tionda's keychain had been lost. Ed Carroll, a 26-year-old police veteran, Chicago police veteran who worked off and on for 3 years on the Bradley case until his retirement in 2013, said that almost every case I've ever worked, especially the violent crimes, you're always able to either include someone or exclude someone. And this was the only case I worked in my entire career where I couldn't exclude anyone or include anyone.
Wow.
Yeah. It was extremely frustrating because we didn't know who did what. Carol said that the most important evidence gathered in the investigation were hairs found in the trunk of the van that Tracy Bradley said belonged to the man she identified as Diamond's father. A month before the girl's disappearance, Tracy Bradley had filed a paternity suit against the man, but the case was later dismissed. Test shows the hairs could have belonged to either the girls or their mother, but the evidence didn't propel the case further. Much
Hmm.
like Sheila, Detective Carroll believed the girls knew the person or persons who abducted them. I think that whatever happened to them, a person that they trusted implicitly was involved, he says. I don't think it was a stranger danger thing. I think it was somebody that they knew and trusted that took them for whatever reason. Sheila stated that two men had been in the apartment after Tracy left for work. Whoever it was knew that those girls were alone, she said. So that definitely kind of tracks, seeing as uh Diamond the was very protective and also cautious, and
Mm-hmm.
like, even for a 10-year-old, kind of knew not to like let strangers in, and
Right.
kind of like kid stuff, like, I know not to let so and so in, but these people that my mom knows and are friends of the family and stuff like that, I might be able to let them in. They are safe. And if it was that neighbor George,
Right.
he may have been able to convince her, oh, your mom called me and she said so forth and so on, kind of stuff. Uh,
Very curious. I am very, this is very curious.
there's so many things about this that it's like they feel like they're leading to something, but then it becomes just a dead end. Let's see. In the reporting on this story, it's often left out that Tionda and Diamond also had two other sisters, Rita and Victoria Bradley. The girl,
Oh,
yeah, that I found mention of them once in any reporting. Like, it was so bizarre that you don't hear anything about them.
that's weird.
Yeah. The girls disappeared just a day before Victoria Bradley's ninth birthday. In the
Hmm.
voicemail, when Tionda mentions picking up a cake from Jules, it's in reference to a birthday cake for Victoria.
Oh.
I think about how my kids could have grown up with their aunties, Rita said. Or if Tionda would have had kids, our kids playing. I think about how we could have been driving together, going out together, eating together. Their mother has since moved away from the Bronzeville neighborhood, changed her phone number, and had two more children after the girls disappeared. Uh, their siblings know nothing about Diamond and Tionda, Victoria says. Sheila Bradley Smith said several years ago that she got in touch with the family that now has Tracy's old phone number to let them know about the girls, just in case Tionda or Diamond ever dialed the number that used to be hers. And
Oh my goodness, my feels.
feels, and then
Oh.
there's going to be a little bit anger coming up. In 2006, a person emailed Sheila claiming that she was Tionda. This led her to a MySpace page with a photo of a teenage girl who looked remarkably like an age-progressed Tionda.
What?
Chicago police tracked the photo to a 12-year-old Illinois girl who said she found the picture on the internet and was using it because she didn't want to use her own. In 2019, a woman from Texas named Lele Rodriguez, claiming to be Tionda and with Diamond, reached out to the family. This turned out to be a hoax. The family recognized quickly that she didn't have a scar on her arm like Tionda, who had burnt herself reaching for an iron when she was younger. That's a level of just depraved. I can't. I don't understand.
Why would you do that? Like, what are you gaining? What are you getting out of that?
I just I don't know.
What's wrong with people?
Just that's like that really punched me in the gut. Like you the family is holding out hope, even
And here
though
you come out of nowhere with
nowhere.
some BS.
Right. I just the level. Anyway. Whew. Family and friends gather annually for a vigil held in Taylor Park on the anniversary of the day Tionda and Diamond Bradley went missing to ask for help finding the sisters. We're going to still pray and continue praying for my daughters, Diamond and Tionda, to come home, said Tracy Bradley this past July 6, 2020.
Wow. They
Yeah,
just disappeared into thin air. No.
really. And like
Okay.
the fact that that detective said that he couldn't include or exclude anyone is so frustrating.
And I know that usually we talk about how the investigators can sometimes drop the ball because if
Mhm.
they feel like, oh, they ran away or we have no leads, they just kind of leave it. But
Right.
they went on a
They
good robust search for these
yes,
girls.
they really went all out. And I wonder if had they been reported missing as soon as they their mother realized they were
Would it
missing,
be
that would
different?
have helped. But it's no use like to what if
Well, my question is, well, what happened to the Georges? Didn't somebody go looking for them to question them?
they were questioned, nothing came of it, and then you don't hear about them. And like
So if
with the reporting of this was so, it took me a really long time to put this together because the reporting on this was so like sketchy and piecemeal, and there was so much focus on Tracy not being
right,
cooperative, but it was really hard to piece together the details of this case because you might have one report here with a little bit another
Mhm.
with a little bit, but nothing put together, like no news outlet put together any cohesive telling of the case, except
Right.
for maybe the Nancy Drew episode, Nancy Grace, Freudian Nancy Grace episode. But the way, like reading the transcript
Mhm.
and watching the episode, despite having all these other pieces of, like having all the evidence kind of put together in a better way than the news articles I was finding, there's still like, you know how she is. There's
Right.
always that overlying accusatory tone.
Right.
Um, so while it was great that there was more information put there, it also was very slanted. And I was trying to
Right.
look at this from I don't think I could ever be completely objective,
Right.
but I was trying to look at it from like, we really don't know who took the girls.
Right. There's so many big questions. Like, who are the two men who were in her apartment, who were in there after she left? Who
Mm-hmm.
are they and what happened to them? What
Mm-hmm.
happened to George Washington? What happened to George the neighbor? What happened to the man who says he was Tionda's father? Like, I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
something about each of these
It's
like secondary and tertiary
mm-hmm.
players in the story
Mm-hmm.
that there's no answer for what
What
happened to them
happened?
or where they went. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that speaks to the weak reporting that happens when black girls go missing
Yes,
is we're going to half-ass this the whole
whole
way
way
because
through.
we can.
Mm-hmm. Like the fact that the key on Tiana's keychain to the house was missing, that is completely overlooked in everything but like a short interview with their grandmother.
That's ridiculous.
Like how that's not a key piece and like everybody's reporting of this baffles me. There was so much that I took from actual transcripts of interviews with their grandmother and great aunt, that you don't actually see in any of the reports.
And there's so many news reports that we go through when we're researching a case, we end up having to put them all together just to get the full story.
Hmm.
And
And
so in the case like this, when everybody's doing weak reporting, like, damn,
mhm,
not one of you came through with a comprehensive story.
right, I had to rely so much on true crime and missing people wikis because they are able, they do the digging and then they also put the reference where they got it. So it's not like I just thought this thought and I'm going to put it out and that's what it is. So any of the quote the pieces of information I found from like one of those sources, they have a reference to where they found it, and it's usually a news site.
Right.
But they also are doing the it you can see how they're piecing stuff together in real time in forums because it'll be threaded together. Each
Right.
person is putting in like that little piece of evidence that they found from another source, and then they're trying to cross reference it, but they're like, we can't find it anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know if this was something that actually happened, was misinterpreted, was something that was real and it was just dropped to the wayside because it didn't bring anything up. Um, there's like tons of stuff I left out because I couldn't verify anything
Right.
about it. So this one is probably the case that I've worked on the longest, and it's been one of the most frustrating ones.
Yeah, those are always really hard ones, especially because it's I like we it's an important story. We want to tell it. We want people to hear about what's going on, but also we have to be accurate and on point.
Hmm.
And we can't just say, "Well, we found somewhere that it said this, but we
Yeah,
can't really confirm it, but we're going to share it with you anyway." So
yeah, yeah.
so we end up leaving out possibly pertinent information.
Right,
But
and
if I can't verify it, what am I supposed to
yeah,
do?
and for this to be one of the biggest searches in Chicago's history, for there to be such lackluster reporting on it
Yeah.
is wild.
It's really sad. And when I was reading over kind of like an excerpt of what happened to them, it gave me zero detail, which I was like, okay, well, I'm expecting that because it's an excerpt. But as I'm listening to you tell the story, I'm like, wait, so there's really not, oh, okay, there's very little information.
Yeah.
And it's not for our lack of trying. It's we're literally using the news stories, court transcripts, police
Mhm.
reports, things like that, and piecing it together. So if the people who are supposed to be the source don't have any information, there's nothing that we can do with that.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. It really is. And I hope that with our work and the work of other people who are, trying to raise awareness for missing Black girls, missing children, that the stories become a little bit more important and the details become more important as we move forward.
Yes. I think with in regards to details of these girls, like that is the key thing that I think contributes to them not being found.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether it be the reporting or even the initial reporting, like the initial alerts about them being missing, there's so many
Right.
details that
Right.
are pertinent to somebody being able to recognize them
Right.
and call the proper authorities to say, hey, I saw this girl that is on the missing poster, but there's
Mm-hmm.
so many things that are left out that would help somebody recognize them, like the fact that I didn't know that there was a scar on Tionda's arm from
Right.
any reporting until I see that her grandmother is like, well, she does have a scar, and that's why I know that this woman is lying about being her.
Mm-hmm. And it's such a small tidbit, but it
Mm-hmm.
matters. And we've
Yep.
talked about the details of like identifying marks, scars,
Mm-hmm.
moles, things like that, and how important that is in being able to identify a person.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's, that was a long time ago. 2001?
Mm-hmm.
That's a long
Yeah,
time ago.
yeah, and those are things that don't change with time.
She's 30 now. I
Yeah,
mean, she's 10 years old when she went missing in 2001. It's 2020.
yeah.
She's a grown
It's
woman.
a whole, yeah.
So it's if we were to find her, say tomorrow, she's going to look very different. She's an
Mm-hmm.
adult now. She is not a little girl. But scars that she had will likely still be visible and still be
Mm-hmm.
right where they were. So that is always very important.
Yes,
And that sounds like an episode for our Patreon.
indeed.
We will talk about that on our Patreon. You can subscribe to it. It will be on our website very soon.
Black Girl Missing Podcast is researched, written, and produced by 3 concerned Black women who want justice for missing Black girls. Today's episode was written by Asa Todd, produced by Nikki Irene, and the Black Girl Missing theme was produced by Siraj Khalif. Be sure to follow us on social media. On Twitter, we are at Black Girl Missing. That's BLK Girl Missing. On Facebook, we're at Black Girl Missing Pod. On Instagram, we're at Black Girl Missing Podcast. Visit our website for more information about each case, blackgirlmissingpod.com. Contact us on social media or email us at blackgirlmissingpodcast@gmail.com with any tips, feedback, or names of girls you want us to look into. You can support Black Girl Missing by subscribing to our Patreon, where you will receive exclusive behind-the-scenes content and bonus episodes. Go to Patreon/Black Girl Missing Podcast and subscribe today. We really appreciate the support.